Good evening and welcome to another session with Tetrakey. My name's Mark Hopkins and I think, I've lost track now, I think this is number 53 out of 260 free business coaching sessions that Rob and I will be doing in 2017. So welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about what conversations are you avoiding having. So as normal, please like, please share, download our book, our second book. We've had some good feedback so far. We've had some really constructive comments as well so far. So you'll see this on the link here. You'll see the download to our book, a very practical book. So please download it. Please send it to those people who think you're going to get some benefit from it. So like, share, Instagram, and download the book is always really helpful. And it tells us that we're doing some stuff that people find helpful. So I am currently here, actually my dad's office. So the first time we've been back to the UK in 2 years. Had a great time in London, working hard, surprising a few people, surprised my dad. They didn't know I was in the country. So I'm here in his office doing our Facebook Live. Rob at the moment is on the plane flying from South Africa to Seattle. So he won't be around for the next couple of days, but the next one he'll do will be from Seattle. So you've got me tonight from the UK, me from the UK again tomorrow night, Seattle, and then we're back for South Africa end of next week. So tonight's conversation, what conversations are you avoiding having? So I've been coaching field hockey since I was 18, so nearly a couple of decades of coaching hockey. And when you're coaching a team sport, a lot of times you're building towards a performance, be it a tournament, be it towards a league situation. But a lot of my international work was towards building for European tournaments, big hockey tournaments. So you go through a process of selection. You start with a big group of people, and over time you start whittling it down. And in the hockey world, you're normally taking 16 athletes to a tournament. So by the end of the process, you're down to 20 players probably, of which out of the 20 you're going to select 16. And then make your decisions. So you get your selection committee together and you make your selection. You identify the players that you're going to take to the tournament. Okay, so that's the part of the journey. Now you've got to do the next part of the journey, which is having those conversations with those players who have made it and those players who haven't made it. Now, you can imagine which are the easy conversations, which are the tough conversations. That's a pretty simple thing to say. But I made a fundamental change 2 years ago in terms of how I managed that. So as most people do, I took the easy option. So the easy option was to put off what you didn't want to do. So what did I do? Well, I had the fun conversations. Fantastic, congratulations, you've been selected for this. Euphoria, happiness. But what was I doing during those conversations? During those conversations, at the back of my mind, I was going, geesh, there is a conversation that I need to have. And I'm actually not that I was dreading the conversation, but I knew it was a conversation that I had to have. So possibly and probably and highly likely, the conversation I was having, which was the fun conversation, I wasn't fully present. I was there, I was giving them information, but probably at the back of my mind, I was thinking about the tougher conversation I've got to have later on. So you go through the 16 phone calls and then you have that pause. You're going, oh, now I've got to do the 1 conversations or the 4 conversations that I'm really, really not looking forward to do. It's not because they're the wrong decisions or the wrong conversations, they're just tough. You're letting somebody know that they didn't make it. You've got to deal with their sadness, their being upset, possibly their anger, possibly the fact they think you're wrong, you've selected the wrong players, the whole emotions of rejection. You've got to deal with those. So last year I made a fundamental change. So I was coaching at the biggest hockey tournament in South Africa, and I deliberately made a change. So what did I do? Well, I phoned the players who didn't make it first. Instead of waiting to the end of my list, they were the top of my list. They were my priority phone calls. And they were as tough conversations as they had been previously, but I got them out the way. And again, it wasn't about just going through the process. The conversations I had with these people were actually better conversations. They were more real conversations, they were more directed conversations, they were conversations that built a longer term outlook for that athlete rather than just thinking about getting the job done. So these conversations were much more positive. They were more, you didn't get selected for these few reasons, this is where you need to focus and this is the role I need you to play in the future. So they were tough conversations, but as soon as I put the phone down, I then picked up the phone and started phoning the players who were in the squad. Now, those conversations also changed because now those conversations were more present, they were more deliberate, they were more focused because I didn't have anything that was hanging over me. Now, I'm sure in your business world, in your life, you've always been in situations where you're not really present. You're there, but you're not really there because you know there's something coming around the corner that you're not quite looking forward to. So you actually miss those opportunities. You miss those moments in your life, in your business, where you're semi-present. So my real message tonight is to think about the conversations that you're avoiding having and start those conversations tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock. When you wake up, don't go, I'm going to do 3 or 4 things first and then I'll have that conversation. Get that conversation done and dusted. Late last year we hosted one of our coaching sessions where we would train up Tetrakey coaches, and we talk a lot about conversations. We talk a lot about how you interact with clients, how you interact with people around you. And one of our coaches just stopped the whole session. He got up, he walked out on the phone, and he came back in with the biggest smile on his face. Now, he'd been putting off having this conversation for 2.5 years. It was a conversation he knew he had to have, but for 2.5 years he'd been avoiding that conversation. He came back in a different person. He came back in with a spring in his step because the conversation that he's been worried about having, he'd now had. So imagine now you wake up tomorrow having had all the conversations that you've been avoiding today. Imagine that feeling. Imagine that feeling waking up when there's nothing hanging over your shoulders. There's nothing going, there's something I need to do today. Imagine waking up going, I'm going to enjoy whatever the day throws at me. There's nothing I cannot deal with today. So that's something I'm challenging you to do today. Now, I'm challenging you to think about the 2 or 3 conversations that you've been avoiding having for the last day, week, month, year, whatever it is. It could be with a supplier, it could be with a person in your organisation, it could be someone in your personal life that you've been wanting to have the conversation, but you've been avoiding having that conversation. Think about what it is that you want to achieve out of that conversation. How do you want to ensure that both parties understand where you're coming from and what you want the output to be? And then first thing you do tomorrow, pick up the phone, get in your car, Skype, FaceTime, whatever medium you choose, but have that conversation. And then think about and see what the rest of the day would look like. So there's a challenge for you. So we've had a talk about why it is so important to have those conversations. Shared a couple of stories about how I made some mistakes in my past and it's affected how I've managed to coach and lead organisations and how I did something different. And what I didn't tell you is last year, that tournament, we won that tournament. We won the gold medal. And I'm not saying it was all because of those conversations, but I'm saying by focusing on the things that drives performance and not having your mind cluttered by things that are getting in the way of performance, I think you'll be a better leader, I think you'll be a better person, I think you'll be a better coach, because all your energy is going forward. It's with those people who are going to take you forward. It's not, your energy is not aligned or assigned to those people who are not going to be with you when you're winning the gold medal. So that, I'd like to wish you a fantastic evening. I'm going to go and enjoy some really good family time with my dad. And I will be talking tomorrow night, and we're going to talk about, I think we're talking about the power of reflection tomorrow night. I'm going to show you a really interesting conversation I had last night with one of my coaches, one of the person who mentors me, who coaches me down in Brighton last night. Had a fantastic evening with him, so I'm going to share some thoughts about that. But with that, I'd like to wish you a fantastic evening from a cold but dry England, which is a bit of a miracle. and I will see you tomorrow night. Good night.